tonight, and a special thanks to you, Kristi, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to even do this call with us. So we really appreciate it. So I guess I was the only one with my phone muted. Everybody else on mute now?
Yep.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and get started. So, Kristi, tell us how you got started in this business. Like, how did you even hear about this crazy rep thing?
I know, it is crazy too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So my story's a little bit different. Don't y'all just love how we all come from so many different backgrounds and experiences? And that's been one of my favorite things about this whole journey, is just learning so much about different people and how they got into this. So I love that you're starting to call off with that. So actually, when I started with It Works, I was working full-time. I had a career in corporate management. I was working for one of the world's largest mutual fund companies. And I had broken into what most people would call the man's world, and I was in management. And so I had what looked like on the outside the dream job. So I had gone to school to get my master's in management, and I went in as a career-driven woman, and I was like, I'm making it to the top of the company, and I busted my butt, and I was rewarded very heavily. And they were promoting me very quickly and moving me into different departments within the company and giving me all these awesome projects. And so, like I said, it looked like it was a dream job, right? Making 6 figures a year. But you guys, I worked there for 10 years. And during that 10-year period, I had 3 beautiful babies. And so that career-driven woman I once was really starting to change. I mean, I was watching my children grow up before my eyes and realizing how much of their lives I was missing. And as a young girl, you know how like sometimes young girls dream about their weddings? Like I always dreamed about being a mom and what I would name them and what kind of mom I would be. And here I was, 3 kids of my own, and I felt like all I had really become to them was a paycheck. And so I was feeling restlessness, and probably for about 2 years prior to even joining. And I would look into startup companies and look into owning franchises. And what I didn't know at the time is I feel like God was kind of preparing my heart to be a business owner. But as you guys may or may not know, like when you're going to open a brick and mortar, that costs a lot of time and it costs a lot of money. And so I would always look into it and then put it aside. Well, in October of 2013, I had what I call my defining moment from God. And that's where I was at work, normal day, and the next day I wake up and I have a pulmonary embolism, a team of doctors and nurses standing over me, explaining to me that I had a blood clot in my lung and I was lucky to be alive. And it was in that moment where I was like, life is too short. There's no way I am meant to just be a paycheck to my family. And I'm going to start saying yes and start trying things. You guys, still at this point, I was not like, I'm going to be an It Works distributor. But I got out of the hospital, and my friend Stacy Dennis, as I'm sure we all know, is somebody that I was good friends with in high school. And so when she did It Works and joined that May, I was watching her. And so I want to tell you guys, people will watch and never comment or never like. So if you're newer to this company and you're posting and you feel like, what's the point of posting? Nobody's commenting, nobody's liking. I promise you they are watching. I never commented on anything. I never liked anything. Stacy had no idea that I was going out and looking at her website and checking out her before and after pictures she was posting. And I mean, I was intrigued. I was skeptic, but I was intrigued. I had 3 babies and I was training for my first marathon and eating clean, but my stomach was not as tight as it used to be. So I was intrigued. But I got out of the hospital. She did a before and after. And it was in that moment that I was like, okay, I'm just going to reach out to her. So that's another thing I want to share with you guys is you never know when the moment is going to click for somebody. And that is another reason why it is so important for us to consistently post. And so it was that moment for me. I reached out to her. I'm like, all right, girl, you got me. I'm ready to try your wraps. And she's like, hang on, I'm calling you. And she called me right away. And she's like, no, you're joining. Like, you got to join. I was like, you are crazy. Like, you do not want me. Like, I've never sold anything. Like, I am not the person you want. Like, I don't have time. Every excuse I gave her was, she turned it into sharing with me every reason why I could do this. And I hung up the phone with her and I went to her website. I didn't even tell her I was going to join. And I just went straight to being a distributor, signed up, paid my $99. And I was like, okay, if anything, I'll get my free product. And my product came in, I tried the wraps, and I was like, oh my God, it really freaking works. Like, this is not a joke, it works. And so it was in that moment where I was like, I'm doing this, like, I'm going to go for it. And so that's kind of how and why I got started in this business.
Wow, that is an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So I think we've all heard about how super good you are at parties and with your challenges that you have and, you know, customer service and things of that nature. But what we really, really want to know is, what are Kristi Miller's biggest business building tips that have gotten you where you are, presidential diamond, you know, top 150 income earner? What is it that you do as far as your business building tips that have gotten you this far in the company?
Well, I am a party girl. So I want to kind of explain how that all happened too. So I'll just take off and you can cut me off if you're like, okay, time out. So I started in October of 2013, as I shared with you guys, and it was kind of middle to end of the month. I can't remember the exact date now. And I got started and I saw the fire. I had a little bit of fire, but I had not completely had the vision yet. And so what I mean by that, you guys, is I was overcomplicating this business, so much so that I spent so much time researching. I mean, I can tell you anything. If y'all want to ask me about the history of this company, if you want to ask me details about any product, like, I am your girl. I will give you an answer. I will tell you how to word it. And it's to a fault, because then I can sometimes end up giving too much information. So don't fall into that trap. The other thing I did too in overcomplicating is I thought like I had to get a business plan together. And I'm like, what? Like, I look back at it now and I'm like, my business plan is the steps to success. So do not overcomplicate this business. So I feel like I wasted my first few months by, you know, just spending too much time doing that stuff. And you really don't need to do that at all. So I started in October, did not promote in October. I did not promote in November, and I did not promote in December. But what I did do is, at the time, the company offered a $500 Christmas cash bonus, and I got that. So I think that was enough to kind of like keep me going. And plus, at the time, I was already in love with the products, and I was already just having fun with this. And you guys, like, I had lost my passion with the company I worked for, because the higher I grew in management, the further I got away from the people part of it, and it got into more politics, and I lost my passion. And this was fun. And so I loved it, and there was no quitting. And that's what blows my mind, is you're going to have people after 2 months or after 3 months that are going to come to you and they're going to say, I haven't promoted, I'm not signing a lot of distributors, you know, it's not for me, I'm going to quit. That's going to happen, because it happens to me still to this day. And the thing that blows my mind, that I really want you to like just sit back for a second and think about that. Like, can you imagine if I would have gone to Stacy after 2 or 3 months and say, I haven't promoted, it's not for me, I'm going to quit. Like, I look at my life now. I'm presidential. My husband's triple diamond. We're both at home full time now. And I just think I can't even imagine if I would have said I quit. And so that's why it's so hard sometimes when people come to me and say they want to quit. You want them to see the vision, but I promise you not everybody will. And that's okay. Like Pam Souter says, you bless them coming in, you bless them going out. So, but Stacy said, just go to conference. It was January 2014. Go to conference. You gotta go. And I was like, it's not my thing. Like, that's all rah-rah, like cheerleader, like motivational. Like, I don't need that, you know. I'm too cool for that. And so but anyway, she ended up convincing me, because Stacy's good at that. And I went, and it clicked. That was my moment. When people ask me, when was that moment that you finally like got it? That was my moment. And where it was is, Pam Souter was on stage doing a mock wrap party, and I saw her do the mock wrap party. I had never done a wrap party. Stacy had not done wrap parties yet at that point. She was really growing her business through one-on-one wrap appointments. And so I remember watching that wrap party, and I thought, I could do that. I could totally do that. And then you hear all these stories at conference and people who made it, and I got it. It was my fire. You have to get to conference. That's the green carpet conference. Get to these events, because it will inspire and motivate you. And so I got home and I got to work with, I had probably 7 or 8 distributors on my team, no volume, and which is why I hadn't promoted. And I got to work by myself. I didn't rely on anybody else. I just got after it. And I looked at a few YouTube videos and I saw how different people were partying. And I thought, okay, well, you don't have to be so prescriptive. And for me, the prescriptive thing didn't work. But I know that there's a lot of people even on my team that are like, I kind of need the prescriptive thing, which is awesome because in eSuite, you guys, if you go in there and look under party pad notes, they write out literally word for word what you can say. So you don't feel like you don't need to feel like you need to just wing it or go on your own. For me, that worked better. And so I did a party and I had a lot of BV come out of that party, which is bonus volume if you're newer. And I thought, this is it. This is how I'm going to freaking do it. I knew I was running for Diamond. I knew I was running for that $10,000 bonus. And I knew I could get a lot of BV and an hour's worth of my time if I did parties. And so all pride and humility went out the window because the biggest question I always get from people is like, you did so many parties. I was doing sometimes 5 parties a week. Like, how did you get so many scheduled? I'm like, there's no secret. I just asked people. I mean, like I said, pride and humility went out the window. I was literally calling friends and family and throwing down the you owe me one cards. Like, I hosted a party for you, or, you know, you got to do this for me. I just need your help. Like, this is going to change the life of my family. I'll clean your house. I'll bring everything we need. I'll clean it afterwards. Like, and I told them, like, I don't want your money. Be like, you don't have to join me. All I want is your network. And that's all I did. And so I started booking parties that way. And the cool thing about that, and the reason why I'm a huge believer in parties is it's a quick way to grow your network. So what I mean by that is if I have a sister or a friend that says, okay, I'll throw a party for you. All of a sudden, they're going to invite their friends. Now I've opened up all of that network. And so from that party, then what I'm going to try to do is try to book another party. And so I'm going to ask anybody if they want to book a party. And same thing, then I'm going to grow that network. And so it's a fast way to not only earn a lot of bonus volume at once, but it's a fast way to also grow networks. And that's what happened to me. So January, I did my first party. By March, I promoted to Diamond. In April, by that time, I finally had my first runner. And so I ran with her, and we did probably twice as many parties every week. We got her to Diamond that following month. And then in May, she spent that kind of month training her team. And so I got back after it in May, and I just went full on party mode. And that's the other tip I'll give you guys. When you feel momentum on your team, do not let off the gas. And I felt momentum on my team, and so I did not let out. And so in May, I kept up that same pace of parties, and I promoted to double diamond. And so I am a huge, huge believer in parties, so much so that I've kind of grown up my team doing parties, and so they are very comfortable. All of my leaders do parties for their teams. We were doing, in the beginning when I first was doing parties and growing the team really quickly, I was doing at least 2 team wrap parties a month. And in addition, I was also doing launch parties. I kind of put out there a thing like, if you're joining our team, like, not doing a launch party is not an option. You've got to do a launch party, because the other thing that I get asked a lot is, what's the quickest way to get somebody motivated and connected in the business? And my answer is always get them a launch party, because when you do the launch party, you're training them on the products and you're teaching them how to quickly get their business off the ground and running. And then as they sign people, now they're going to also do that. And it's just a great, fast way to grow business. So then the other thing that people ask me too, just about parties is, okay, so you've got the people at the party, like, what do you do? Like, what makes your parties different? There is no secret. I kind of, even though I don't pull out the party pad and read through it, I still kind of do the same thing. I personally will start every party with sharing my story and how I got into it. And I try to pepper in, certain things like the free product credit and, it's only $99. And, I pepper all that in the beginning, because what I'm trying to do is plant the seeds, like get them thinking, oh yeah, it's only $99, $40 more. And, oh yeah, I could get free products. So as I'm talking about the products, I'm trying to remind them back to how amazing it is to be a distributor. And then at the end of the
ask you a question really quick on your parties, because I want to know how you tell new distributors or distributors who have been in a really long time how to start having a party when they're not comfortable with it? Because I know like 3 months in, I mean, I did my first party and it was a hot mess. I had like a big, I had my big laptop and like my notes and stuff. So how do you get girls to do a party who are not ready for a party, but should be ready for a party? And then also too, how do you get girls who are remote to have these parties?
So if you have people that you feel like should be ready for a party but aren't, like I always get the leader or myself. I tell everybody like not doing a party is not an option, right? So if you join, you got to do a party. And so you're going to go to your sponsor or your enroller to have you help throw the party and then work your way up. If they're not available, go to the next person, go to the next person. If you have to, I am here and I will do the party. Now, I don't just throw somebody out and say, just do one party and then you're done. But like what I'll do is I continue to invite other distributors to other launch parties I do or other big team parties I do. And so what I found is when people kind of get used to hearing how I do a party 2-3 times, they become comfortable. And then what I'll eventually do is what I did with my very first runner, one of my triple diamonds, Lisa Romo, is eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, we got to cut the cord, girl. Like I've done like 20 parties with you. Like we got to go. Like you got to go. And so, but what I did was I would have her start kind of tag teaming with me during a party and just letting her know, like, you got this. And then once she did kind of a half party with me, then she was fine. She was like, okay, yeah, it's not that bad. And she kind of went with it. Now, the other thing that I'll tell you is if it's remote, the remote ones are awesome because even right now, like we've got Skinny Sundays set up for you guys every Sunday. You can get them in there. The other thing too is, I mean, I've even got a distributor that's in Italy and all you have to do is you just Zoom right in. You tell them you invite the people to your house. You pull me up on your app, or I've had people pull me up on like Apple TV where it's real big. And then I'll sit there and do the party and answer the questions. And so it doesn't matter if you're not local, you can definitely make it work. Technology.
Love, 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 love that. A lot of times we get stuck and we're like, I could have not done a party because my sponsor wasn't active, even though she was here. But I love that you're like, just pull me up on Zoom. I'll be there even if I don't live there.
Exactly.
Nicole, what do you have?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Sorry, I was saying, Nicole, what do you have? I was muted.
I was like, what's going on? When it comes to your parties and you're doing the Zoom calls, I think sometimes I find it hard to engage when I'm on Zoom and I'm in a party because I want to talk to people face to face. And that whole face-to-face energy thing is so crucial. And yet because of Zoom, I mean, we're doing it right now when we have engagement. What are your best tricks for engagement when you're Zooming into a remote party?
Whether it's in person or it's Zooming, like you got to get comfortable with getting them involved. So like even at my parties, like I try to keep my parties very conversational and fun. Like I have my team can probably rattle off for you the same cheesy jokes I use at every single party. And the other thing is I just ask questions like, okay, you guys, who's tried the wrap? And just, I mean, silly things like that. Or, just asking them questions throughout the party and just kind of being comfortable with stopping and just silence. And I think that's the part that kind of will sometimes get people feeling nervous is if somebody doesn't talk right away, then they're like, okay, and they got to keep going. And I'm comfortable with just sitting there and be like, okay, there's got to be something, And you'll just find your natural breaks where you can add in a question. The other thing I like doing about that is then it gives me a chance to like get a drink of water or, again, make another cheesy joke. I guess the thing that I'll tell you guys is there is no right or wrong way to do a party. I mean, I know Jessica says that her first party was a hot mess. It probably was not even as bad as what she thought it was. It probably was not. We're our own worst critics. But here's the awesome thing is people who are coming to your party, they don't know if there's a right way or a wrong way. They just know you. And you can even laugh about it. You can be like, okay, like I totally bombed that one. And you can just kind of make jokes and just keep going with it. If you say the wrong thing, guess what? They're not going to know you said the wrong thing. Just keep going with it. And just have fun. And I think that's the thing. Like I love parties because I have fun with them. I program my mind of thinking like it's just a great way to meet new people. that's another tip that I'll give y'all too is, so I'm glad you asked this question. So before the party starts, don't just sit there by yourself looking at your notes and setting up product. And let me get to that too. Don't do that. Like, go engage with people. Go interact with people. Like, you know, if somebody comes in, like, I'll be like, oh, hey, you know, I'm Kristi. I'm so excited to meet you. And, oh, okay, so Sally, have you ever heard of any of the products? And, oh, okay, so what are you looking for? You know, oh, well, gosh, I just eat like so many sweets and the summer's coming up and blah, blah, blah. You know, I kind of leave that in the back of my mind. So then when I'm doing my party, I'm like, okay, Sally, you're going to love this product. It's our fat fighters. I know you said you like sweets. And so at that point, then I'm starting to pull in people because of the information I gathered before I even got started. And that's the thing is when, even if you feel like people are nodding off when you say, okay, Sally, people are going to be like, oh, she knows Sally, you know, it just kind of like engages people more. So, I mean, obviously on Zoom, you don't get the chance to kind of mingle before, but like you could be like, okay, who loves sweets? And, you know, raise your hand. And people, you know, maybe kind of uncomfortable, but be like, I know there's and, you know, just kind of keep making it fun like that. But I agree. I totally agree. I feel like it is harder to do the Zooms that way. We're doing our first Facebook Live party this Sunday, which I'm hosting, and I'm nervous about that because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even get to see people. Like, it's me talking to myself. So we'll see how that goes. That could be the hot mess that Jessica's talking about. So we'll see. But yeah.
I like how you talk about engagement because people like to hear about themselves too. And the fact that you're listening to them and you're talking to them and like you're pocketing information in your head, like you're like a detective, really.
That's a great way to think about it. And y'all, that's a great way to think about it in like any conversation you have. And like what I always try to train people with this business is, you know, communication is a huge part of this business. And that doesn't mean that you're doing this. It means that you're listening. And if you are having a conversation with a potential, I don't care if it's loyal customer or distributor, if you're the one doing most of the talking, you are the one losing that communication battle. And it's not really a battle, but you know what I mean. And I used to have to teach this to the wholesalers that would sell our funds to financial advisors. I would tell them, if you're the one talking, you are not winning. Like, you've got to learn how to ask questions, probe, and shut up. And like because if people are the ones owning the conversation, asking you the questions, they feel like they're in control. And that's what you want. You want them to feel like they're in control, because then at that point, they're going to know you're not trying to sell them. You're just trying to share. So that was a good analogy.
Right. You want more about them. Something you said earlier too, I think is so important. You said, I wanted to know everything, every detail, you know, from products to the compensation, to the history of the company. How do you get out of your own head to jump into the business?
It's very hard. Like, I mean, honestly, like when people ask, the one thing I'll tell you that I love is I love being at a party and somebody wants to challenge me on the product, business, because I'm like, let's go. And I don't really do that, but in my mind, I'm like, here we go. Because I am very confident in speaking. I believe in this company. I believe in the network marketing profession, and I believe in all these products. And that's what you have to have. You have to have complete conviction. You don't need to know all the crap that I know. You just have to have conviction. You've got to know and believe that this business is amazing. This company is one of the best, and that these products are nothing but true and unbelievable. And that's how you speak to people. So it is it can sometimes be hard for me to get out of my own head. And if I start going too deep with some of that stuff, I pull myself back. I'm like, okay, wait, sorry. The biggest thing that I'll tell you guys is, if you are like me and you do feel like you've learned so much about this business that when you're in a conversation with a potential, you are talking too much, you got to just train yourself to one-word answers or answers to their question, and then asking them a question right back. And it's truly a skill. And I know this sounds really cheesy, but what I've done with some of my distributors that have that problem is I'm like, we need to like get on a Zoom and like act like I'm a potential. And it's like a practice coaching. And I'm going to be that hard potential for them. And I'm going to be that one who I'm just like sitting there staring at them, you know, and if they try to ask me, so what questions do you have? And I want to try to trap them into talking so much so I can coach them. So if you're leaders on this team, that's a great thing that you can do, is get into a one-on-one coaching with your distributors and find out, like, how are they speaking about the business? How are they, messaging people? That way you can kind of coach them through that, because it is hard.
It's definitely not easy. Trying to get out of your own head is the biggest challenge. And earlier you said that when you started, you had 7 or 8 people, no volume. So the parties are what got you started. And I think one of the terrifying things when you're first starting out is growing my network, but how do I begin to delve into that network and begin to look at them as potential distributors? How do I talk to them? So how did you, while growing this network, offer the business?
I go into every conversation as you're a potential distributor. That's just what I do. Every person I meet, every person I blitz, every person I talk to at a party is first thing first, you're my potential distributor. And the reason, again, is it's complete conviction in this business on my part. And I had it, y'all. I had that conviction even before I promoted to executive. So I don't want you to think like the conviction comes with hitting presidential. It comes just within you. You just got to have that within you. That reminds me of something I want to share. So the thing is, it's like, as you get into the conversation with people and you start talking to them about the products, always mention the business. I know Stacy shared with me one time, like, you probably would not have been somebody I would have initially reached out to because you look like you had it all together. And like, I knew you were making good money. You had a good job. I wouldn't have reached out to you. I have found myself in that same trap where I thought that, like, oh, no, they really love their job. There's no way they would want to do this. Do not judge anyone. You never know. Like, what Stacy didn't know is how broken and empty I was feeling on the inside, even though it looked like everything was awesome on the outside. So ask everybody. And so I'll start talking to them about the business. But you will quickly see, your gut intuition should be able to quickly let you know if they are really a potential distributor as you were hoping, or if they're better off being a loyal customer. Because the other thing that I'll tell you is there's nothing worse than having a chart full of distributors and there's no volume. And I've seen people who literally could be presidential and they're maybe emerald. And that kind of puts up a red flag for me. And it makes me go, okay, are you training? Are you coaching? Are you going through the process to really determine, maybe they were a better fit as a loyal customer? But yeah, to get back to your question, is go into every conversation of thinking of somebody as a potential distributor. As you go through the detective mode, to use your analogy, you'll understand, are they really a potential distributor or would they be a better loyal customer?
And do you find that you approach them differently? Let's say you have, we always have a warm market, a lukewarm market, and a cold market. Do you find that you approach each potential distributor the same way?
Well, for me, I get everybody into my warm market. So what I mean by that is, even if I just met you on the street at Walgreens or wherever, I'm going to try to Facebook friend request you. I'm going to try to get your name and number so I can start communicating with you through text message. And my goal is to try to pull you into my warm market. I am not a believer in just blanket cold messaging. And I want to just explain what I mean by that. So I don't believe in a lot of leaders have kind of come to this point too, where you're just friending a bunch of people and then copying and pasting. Because what we've seen that's happened is we were saying cold message people. And then what we found is that people were doing it the wrong way. They were literally just finding people and then cold messaging. And like just today, I got a message from somebody who was like, hey, I just joined a company and I was wondering if I could send you information. It works. And I was like, yeah, let me get it. I've been doing it for 2.5 years and I'm excited for you and your journey. But if you want to be successful at this, you really should take the time to understand the person's profile and, scroll through. So how I try to teach my team now, I know it's very embarrassing, right? I feel bad for her. And that's not the first time it's happened. But what I try to teach my team now is pull people into your warm market. If you have people from your hundreds list that you want to be a potential distributor, want to be a potential loyal customer, start liking, start commenting. And I think that's across the board that we're trying to teach. So I'm sure Jessica's obviously gone over that with you guys too. But that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get y'all to pull in people from your cold market, pulling them into your warm market. So then it's just not a big deal to ask them about the business or approach them about the business or a product. I mean, I used to always say, Facebook kind of no longer became like this fun little place for me to disconnect. It really kind of became my business tool, where I would get on Facebook and I would see what people were posting about. And I'm like, oh, Sally's going back to work. And I would kind of make a note. Oh, so-and-so says they're tired because of allergies. And I would make a note. And then those are the people I would start liking, commenting, and then, eventually start opening the door to do the message. It's practices I still use today.
I love that you said that you just said that you would make, like, that's what I did too. I had to physically write down things that I saw, like, oh my gosh, so-and-so just posted 7 times on the garage sale site. And they're for like $5, $15. So I'm like, that's a note for a distributor. You know what I mean? And sometimes I would approach people and say, hey girl, I see you're like selling half your house. Are you moving? No, we're just trying to, trying to pull it out of them. Like, no, you're just trying to make some money. I can help you, so you really have to learn Facebook is no longer Facebook to me anymore. Facebook is work. Facebook is learning your potential and figuring out how to close the deal with them. Something that just popped in my head that I want to ask you before I forget to ask you, because I think this is really important, because there's a lot of people, we all want to get to the level of being able, I'm not going to say we all want to get to the level of being able to do this full time, but I think it's probably fair to say we all want to get to the position to have the option to do it full time, because that's when it gets really fun, when you have the option to quit. It doesn't mean you have to quit your job, but when you have the option to, it's awesome. But what does it look like? What did it look like for you growing in corporate America and growing your It Works business? Like, what did it look like for Kristi when you woke up in the morning? How did you manage your time? Can you really manage your time? I want you to be really transparent with us on, like, can you just put in a couple hours at night, or did it take a lot more? What did it look like?
Well, and this is where I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. To get to be able to grow from executive to diamond from January to March, I sacrificed a lot of time up front. I told y'all I saw the vision with the party and I went after it. So that did mean that I was sacrificing a lot of my family time to do the parties at night and on the weekends. However, I did truly believe it was for a short period of time. Here's the thing that I want y'all to know too, is you have to have a vision in this company. Because if you don't have a vision when you join, I promise you're going to quit. But you can't just have the vision of, I'm going to be presidential, I'm going to quit my job, or I'm going to be able to pay cash for a vacation. You have to envision what that looks like. And for me, when I started envisioning. I started envisioning me being able to be at home, drop the kids off at school, go to lunch with them, work my business from home, go work out at the gym, come home, pick them up, cook dinner. I would visualize it. And that's the difference. When you visualize it, you start believing it. You start thinking it. You start saying it. And what happens is, all of a sudden you're believing that God's going to provide and that God's in control, and that's faith. And when you have faith, then you can't have fear, because if the fear comes in, the faith takes over, and if you don't have all of that, when the fear comes in, you get paralyzed. So I knew I was sacrificing a lot of time up front, but I also knew I had the vision and I knew it was going to happen. So waking up in the morning, I would just kind of do my normal thing. It was throughout the day that I found ways to incorporate this into my business. So what I was doing is I was on lunch, in between meetings, on the airplane. I was showing people, I was trying to find ways to bring up the fact that I own my business, right? So I would even be in line at Starbucks. I used to always give this joke, but like I would be in line at Starbucks and like I would just start smiling and talking to the person next to me, and I'd be like, oh yeah, the sky is really blue and pretty today. By the way, I own my own business. And it wasn't like that in your face, but like I would figure out some way I could pepper in, I own my own business, because chances are if I found a way to say I own my own business, people would say, oh really? Well, what do you do? And that was my end to start talking about the business, start sharing the products. And I did the same thing with friends and family, and at work. I really tapped into my network at work and would share the results with people. And I just added it in. I wasn't doing a whole lot of trying to really grow on social media and message and doing all the things that we're teaching you guys today, because we didn't have those tools. We didn't really know all that stuff back 2.5 years ago. And I think that's maybe why also when I saw the vision with the party and I saw how quickly you could go with the parties, I was like, that's it, I'm going all in. And I started doing the parties nonstop. But I am very honest with people when they join and they're like, oh, I'm going to hit diamond in 3 months. I'm like, that's awesome. How much time do you have to put into this every day? Well, I can probably do like 30 minutes a day. I'm like, that's amazing. You're going to hit diamond, but you're not going to hit it in 3 months. I mean, and that's just like, let's be real with each other. It's not going to happen. And so you do have to commit. I'm not saying you have to do like an hour to 2 hours every day, but you're going to have at least lump sums on the weekend or whatever. And you're going to have to find the things you sacrifice. To this day, I still probably rarely watch TV. And that's just one of the things I gave up when I was running, and I just never really picked it back up. Every now and then I'll turn on TV. That's just not how I spend my time. And so, I mean, it was a sacrifice I made. Now it's something I don't miss. And so you'll just find the different things that you're willing to give up if you truly want this.
Well, Kristi, it's Tiffany. And I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for everything you've told us. I've been writing notes over here like a mad woman a little bit. But since we only have a few minutes left, I was wondering if we could kind of open up to like question and answer to see if anybody had anything they wanted to ask you, if that's okay.
I love that. Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. So if there's anybody that has any questions, please unmute yourselves or have Jessica unmute you. I don't know how it works. And go ahead and ask away while we still have a few minutes.
And y'all, if you want to, there's a chat icon at the bottom of your screen. I know, Tiffany, you have like a list of questions that like some of us as leaders wanted you to ask her. And if anybody has any questions, if you'll just put it in that chat at the bottom. And Tiff, can you see the chat at the bottom? It's like the bottom.
I don't see it.
You don't see it? Okay, so, but I see it. So if you want to ask the questions that like the leaders have for her, and as questions come in after you finish, I'll just like throw them in.
Okay, well then I'm going to start, Kristi. One of the things that a lot of people really want to know is how do you motivate your new DTs to come in and just hit the ground running with kind of the same drive and passion and excitement that you have? How do we get them going?
The first thing, well, first, let me just, again, since we're in this transparency stage of being completely honest with each other, you're not going to be able to do it with everybody. That I just want to put that out there. That was kind of one of the things I wish I would have known then when I first started, because it hurt my feelings sometimes, and it upset me, and it made me feel like I was doing something wrong. And I promise you, you're not. If you're doing the things I'm going to tell you and whatever else you're doing, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to inspire and motivate and encourage everybody. It's just not everybody sees the vision at the same rate or at the same time. But you do have a responsibility. When they paid that $99 and they said, yes, I trust you, I'm joining your team, that put full power in your court to show them exactly the vision you have. And so you've got to connect them right away. Get them connected to your team page. Get them connected to the Zooms. Get them connected to corporate events. And for me, of course, honestly, it's get them a launch party set up immediately and help them get that for LCs immediately. And so that's the biggest thing. And then be the sponsor that you want to be, that you would want to have. Like, pour into them. The other thing that I always try to do is I always try to set up a in-person or phone call with them within 1 to 2 days, where I am going over e-suite and answering any questions and just kind of having that one-on-one love and time with them. And of course, now that we have Zoom, I love doing the Zooms versus the calls because it's the face-to-face interaction. And then in that first meeting, ask them, like, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to get to? Are you trying to get to Ruby, or are you wanting to be presidential? And so that way you kind of have, and then ask them, like, do you want me to kind of be checking in with you every other day? Or are you more of kind of hands-off, let you run and just check in with you once a week? And I think when you establish that up front, then you exactly know what to expect and how to run. But, and again, too, then that makes them feel encouraged. It makes them feel motivated.
Kind of with that same question, what if you're steadily pouring into these people and you're reaching out to them and you want you know, you're trying to motivate them, but they're just not responding. When do you say, okay, I'm done? When do you say that?
You're probably not going to like this answer because it's probably not what everybody says, but I never quit on anyone because I have had so many circumstances of people needing to put this down for a little bit and me just continuing to tag them. And maybe I'm not pouring into them as much because I can't waste all my energy doing that, but I'm going to continue to tag them. I'm going to continue to check in with them. I'm going to say, I'm here for you. You know, like I said, when you join, I'm here for you. You can go at your own pace. I never quit on anyone. However, you're going to have your gut instinct where you're going to know when it's time to back off and just let them put it down, you know? But I always try, if somebody tells me that they want to just cancel, I always just, you know, try to call them right away. And I just tell them, you know what, you are paid up for 12 months. Like, tell me what's going on. Because remember, you don't have to be in this full force, like what's going on. And sometimes it's just money's got them. They need to turn off eSuite or auto shipment for a month or two. Okay, great. You can do that. You don't need to cancel. And sure enough, in a few months, they'll pick back up. So again, I don't know if that's the answer that everybody has, but I always try to tell people don't quit on people.
That's good. That's good. Well, some people are popping up questions in our little chat, and one of the ones was, what are your tips for sealing the deal with potential distributors?
The biggest thing that usually holds, well, first of all, if you do not have a follow-up process in place with this business, you will not be successful. Mm-hmm. I love sharing with people that every single one of my diamonds, double diamonds, triple diamonds that I personally enrolled told me no at least once, probably, and they'll tell jokes about it too, probably like 4 or 5 times. I don't ever take somebody off of my list when they tell me no for the first time. You have to have a consistent follow-up process in place. So part of me following up with people consistently is just, I'll get to the point where I'm like, okay, I know you want this business. We've talked about it. Like, what is holding you back, girl? Like, what is it? Like, I know it's a fear of something because I had lots of fears too, but tell me what the fear is. And usually it's me asking that one question, and then they'll tell me, like, I just don't think I'm going to have enough time. And I'm like, okay. And then I can address it right away. And it's usually, those are kind of those critical turning points in somebody making the decision where they're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it. So get comfortable with when you're following up with people is asking them, okay, what's holding you back at this point? Or like, what is the fear at this point? And so a lot of the people on the team, I've been teaching that too and coaching to that, and they're starting to use it, and we're seeing a lot of success come in. So that would be my tip to seal the deal.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that. Are there any more questions? I'm trying to find the chat. I can't find it, Jess.
It's only showing me half of it. Sharon asked, how do you get that flow of conversation to a random person in Starbucks without getting a weird look, thinking you or I am weird? Like, how do you get that random person to just, get on your Facebook?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you've got to engage with people. And for me, because I was just so burnt out with work, it became kind of reclusive. And so like when I would go out in public or even in the neighborhood, like everybody joked around like, oh, they never thought my husband had a real wife because I was just never outside. And I wanted to be off when I was off of work. Well, when I started growing this business, I started smiling at people and engaging with people. And so like, honestly, that's what I would do is I would just, be in line and, I would smile. And if they would smile back, I'd be like, hey, how's it going? Like, you having a good day? And yeah, I'm okay, and I'd be like, good, and it's crazy about that. I mean, just kind of do small chat with them. And then honestly, I would figure out a way to bring in the business part of it. If they would say like, good, I'm just kind of tired. I'm like, I know I am too, but I'm excited because it's a good tired because my business is booming right now. Oh, really? Well, what do you do? So, I mean, it's just kind of, the whole thing is wearing the shirt. I think that It Works shirts are like the most open way to be like flipping the sign to say I'm open for business, wearing the shirt and doing the whole smiling thing and engaging people in conversation. The more you do it, the more you'll get comfortable with it. And it won't even, like, to me, I don't even think twice about it now. So.
There's another question on here that I really liked, and I think one of the leaders had this question too. Can you describe the day that when you decided to leave your job? Like, how do you leave? Because I don't know if you guys know this about Kristi or not, but she was like very highly paid in corporate America, like making over 6 figures in corporate America as a woman. And that's really difficult to do. So how did you decide to leave corporate America to do this full time?
I'm pulling up my phone right now because my husband just sent me a picture the other day and it just stopped me in my tracks and I started crying. I don't know if y'all can see this, but this was my resignation letter and it just, it still gets me. But I initially wrote it on December 9th of 2013. So I say initially because I had the pulmonary embolism October 2013. A few weeks later, I joined this business, caught the fire, knew I wanted to do this. And I found something I loved and I was happy about. So I didn't care that I wasn't making 6 figures a year yet with this company. I was happy. And so my husband and I prayed about it and we were like, we're just going to go for it and just see what happens. So I tried to turn in my letter of resignation on December 9th and they were like, you just went through something traumatic and we don't think that you really need to quit. And so, you know, we're not going to accept it. We want you to like rethink it. And they came back with like basically a fight for me to stay. So fast forward now to June of 2014. At that point, I had been double diamond for two months. It was 8 months in the business. And there, at that point, I was just like, there's nothing they could do to stop me from it. Like I hated my job at that point, hated. And I hate to say that because the company is amazing. And I just remember like telling my husband, like crying. And I was like, I don't even want to walk into the doors. And he was like, just don't. And I just quit. And at that point, it wasn't even like a 2-week notice. It was just like, I'm done. And it was very emotional. And I mean, I remember I cried for days. I was sick to my stomach for days leading up to it. And I cried for days leading after it. And it was because I think it was like that moment where I realized what I thought my life was going to be forever was changing. And I was not good with change. And then I have to admit, it was kind of a hard transition afterwards, because when you go from having such an organized, structured life to now you're a business owner full-time from home, it was hard for me to transition into that. So I just kind of want to share, it wasn't all peaches and roses for me. And I had to kind of get used to that too. But it was I knew I wanted to quit in December, but I held back from it. And then it was kind of a slow build. And it's going to happen to you too. Like if you know that you're a lifer with It Works, it's going to happen. It just starts building and it gets to this intense point to where you're like, there's nothing that's going to stop me from being at the top of this company or being in a position where I can quit my job. And so whenever people tell me like, I want to quit my job and I want to do this, I'm always like, what's your magic point? Like, is it diamond? Is it double diamond? Is it triple diamond? Like, what's your magic point? Because then what I want to do is when they come back to me and they are like, I don't know if I can do this, I'm like, nope, you're not triple diamond yet. You don't get to talk about, you can't do this. Like, that's your magic point, remember? And I try to like remind them. So you'll know what it feels like. You'll know when it's time. I mean, I'm sure Jessica's probably told y'all her story too. It's just intense. That's all I can say. It's intense.
Did your business blossom when you went full time?
With It Works?
When you had the time to pour into it what it deserved?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, at that point, that's when I realized that the type of leader I really could be for my team. I spent more time really trying to train my leaders. I spent more time, planning more functions and events and get-togethers and just really trying to figure out how I could have even more fun with the business. And then I was able to pour more into my family, which I feel like above all, first and foremost, that was the biggest thing for me. Yeah. So, yeah, it did. It'll take off fast once that happens.
It's crazy because I look back on how I was signing distributors and customers when I was working compared to when I stopped working. And it was like, I thought I had fire in me when I was working and building, but the second that I had to do it full time, and of course I made that choice, but it was scary. It was summer because I was a teacher. So it was summer, and it was when I quit my job. All of a sudden I was signing double what I was signing working, because I knew there's no going back. Like, this is working. And I'm like, why didn't I have the drive that I do now that I did when I was working? But I mean, it was exhausting, but it was just fun. When I quit, it became real. And I wish I would have taken it real, from the beginning, because I would have been a mad machine, you know, while I was still working, because I would have known this is going to work. Because you've said this in this meeting, when you make up your mind that this is working and this is the only way, and I'm making it to the top of the company, I don't care if it takes me 2 years or 5 years, that I'm going to make it. It's just weird how things start to fall in place because you work with that mentality.
Yep. The option to quit is not there.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Tiff, you had like a really good question that you sent me earlier. It was like something about LCs or something like that. Did you already ask for that?
Oh, yes. No, I was going to ask you that, Kristi. Do you have anything that you do special for loyal customer retention once you get your loyal customers?
I don't know if it's special or different, but I am a firm believer in having huge customer service because they are the bread and butter of our business. I think too many times people will put too much emphasis on distributors, and I'm like, hey, don't chase the rate by trying to fill a bunch of boxes, chase the bank, because make no mistake, when your volume is a lot higher, then your paycheck is going to be a lot higher than the average. So I am really big on trying to teach and incorporate loyal customer retention. So in the beginning, I didn't understand that. I didn't know that. And so I saw a lot of turnover in my business with loyal customers. And when I turnover, I mean like within 3 months, they were dropping off and I was having to replace, and it was always this balancing act. And then I was like, okay, wait, something's got to change. And so then I started incorporating this file system. And so I would have, every time I would sign a loyal customer using a paper order form, I would file it in a folder, and then I would know, like, okay, the following month, I would pull that out and I would contact all of them. And that's what I used for a long time. Now I've come to the technology age, and as soon as I sign a loyal customer, I add them into my smartphone and I'll put them on a date. So within 2 weeks, I have a reminder set on my phone, an alarm, follow up with Kim. She just signed up, with the system. And so in 2 weeks, I'm gonna be like, hey girl, just checking in. How are the products going? What questions do you have? Follow it. Okay, that's my first one. And then after I do that one, then on the 25th or whenever her auto is gonna run, I'll set the reminder for the 20th or whatever and say, hey, just wanted to remind you your auto. So now what I'm doing is setting the reminders on my phone and being very diligent with that. The other thing that I have in place is a loyal customer retention letter. And I can share that too with you, Jessica, so you can share it with your team. But basically what I do is it's a letter that I'll email to people and just reminding them about, their product coming up. And I'll highlight a few products that I think they may want to try. Or, summer's coming up. I just wanted to share a few products that I think you would love or whatever. And I'll put in, defining gel or greens. And then what I do is I'll go to my website, I'll click on the greens, and then I copy that link and I'll put it in the body of the email. So what's cool is I'll tell them a little bit about the greens, and then I have the hyperlink there so then they can click on it and go straight there and place the order. That's really been, it's been awesome to help my business. And then the other thing that I like to do is perk point checks. Every month I go in and I look at perk points. I'm like, hey girl, just wanted to let you know you have about 15 perk points out there. That's $15 in product. I've been wanting to try the defining gel. So that means right now you can get it for, X amount of dollars. And so it's just, I'm always trying to stay in front of my customers and offer them good customer service. Always trying to not upsell them, but like try to give them to, offer them different products they can try and making sure there's no problems or concerns. And if you're doing that, your volume is going to stay high. And if you're teaching your team to do that, your volume will really stay high. So
that's good. Thank you. There's Mommy. Hold on, baby. Tiffany had a really good question. It was, how many times do you reach out to reluctant DTs before you decide, okay, I think that's a no? I've reached out 8 times and they've ignored every single one. Or like, do you have like a rule that you follow for yourself on when to stop reaching out to potentials?
No, they gotta tell me, Kristi, back off. They gotta tell me back off. Like, I'm done. I'm not gonna, whatever. They've really got to tell me that. I do get to a point to where, I might, instead of following up with them like every other day or every other week or whatever, like I'll get to the point to where then I add them to my 3-month follow-up list. But I don't know. I've got people on my follow-up list. I was just going through my Facebook Messenger. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, what's the longest person you've ever reached out to? And I pulled up my list and then I went back to Facebook Messenger And I was like, this person I've been following up with since February 2014. And the thing is they keep telling me like, yes, I want to do it. Not right now. And so I just keep adding them to my list, you know? So don't get locked in. This is one thing that I'll tell you on anything that you hear us leaders teach you, is don't get locked into thinking that what we say is some prescriptive way. There should never be like a number where it's like that and done. Like follow your gut, like follow your instinct on it. And so like, I don't have a set number. There are some times where people after the second time, they're like, okay, I'll never do this. It's not my thing, but thank you anyway for thinking of it. Okay, that was twice, you know?
Right. I like that you said that, because truthfully, if I look at the people that are on my team that I've asked, it's like a good 6 to 8 times.
Yes.
6 to 8 times before they said yes. And I know that sounds like ridiculous, but it's the truth. And I think a lot of people think after 3 times that, girl, not right now, that's still like a maybe in 3 months. And I don't think people get excited about that. But if I don't get a no, thank you, please don't ask me anymore, I'm like, there's a chance, you know, because I look at the growth of my team and that's where it happened. Anne had a really good question that I wanted you to answer before you had to go. It was, what is the one thing that you wish you had known earlier about the business? And is it something you teach your downline or new DTs now? So like, what's the one thing you wish you would have known in the beginning?
I feel like it's kind of 2 things. 1 is balance, and 2 is being okay with the fact that people are going to quit. For me personally, I love everybody. Like that's me. That's my personality. I am a lover. God built my heart that way. So when I bring people into my organization, I pour into them and I love on them and I form friendships with them. And so in the beginning, it really did hurt my feelings when people would quit or just cancel and not tell me they were canceling. And it bothered me, and I kind of really would internalize it. It would hold me back for a few days. And so I always try to tell people now, like, people are going to quit and you got to be okay with that. You know, like it's not anything personal to you. It's just, it happens. Like people don't always have that same vision or the same drive that you have, and you have to be okay with that. The other thing too is you're going to, again, this is me always being transparent with people. You're going to have a time where you're going to want to quit. Okay. And I think every leader will tell you there have been times where they've contemplated quitting, and you got to push past those times. You got to call Jessica, call your upline, tell them, talk me off the ledge here because I'm having one of those days. You got to be comfortable with that. You have to recognize it is going to happen. And I don't mean to scare somebody who's brand new, but I almost feel like I wish somebody would have told me that when I first started. I wish somebody would have told me that it's okay, that it's normal, and you're going to go through these things. The balance comes into play that I let this really consume me initially. And the one thing I've learned is you got to have 3 things. You got to have the balance of body, spirit, mind. Body, your health. You've got to take care of yourself. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Spirit, you've got to have something that you believe in, that you pour, that you're being able to pour, have poured into you. Because I'm telling you, the bigger your team grows, the more you're having to give. And so if you're always pouring out and you don't have something pouring back into you, you're going to burn out. And then the other thing too is your mind. And that really comes with your development and making sure that you're finding magazines to read, books to read, things that you can continue to grow and develop in this company. Again, and it all has to do with filling your cup back up so you can get back to your team.
I love that. Was that it, Tiff?
Yeah, that was, I'm just making sure that we got everything covered here. 1 second. Yeah, I mean, everything on my list, Jess.
It looks good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kristi, thank you so much for pouring into us. I feel motivated to go have some more parties. I haven't had a party, I guess, like in like 3 weeks or a month. And I'm like, no, I need to be doing 2 parties a week. What am I doing? I know, ambassador, let's go.
That's right.
Asking them, hey, would you do a party for me? You owe me. Like, you totally owe me. I like that line.
Yep. No pride, no humility. Go for it, guys. The next party team is right here.
Well, thank you. And if you would, will you share with me that loyal customer retention order or
yes.
letter that you send out? Because I don't send anything like that to my loyal customers. So that would be awesome to have.
I will send that over to you.
Jess, don't forget a picture.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Okay, everybody smile. Okay, 1, 2, oh wait, oh shoot. Actually, it's gonna do 3 seconds. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let me make sure it turned out okay. Nope, we gotta take it one more time. 3, 2, 1. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kristi.
Diamonds and above, don't get off because we've got our leadership meeting next. So everybody that's not a diamond, you can get off. Diamonds and above, stay on, please.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Say bye-bye.
Yeah.
Say bye-bye.
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 Okay, now say bye.
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 Bye, DJ.
He's like, they know my name.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. The rough, can they stay on? Diamonds in the rough. No diamonds only, but you know you'll be here with us in a month as fast as you're moving. Go. No, not that you can't stay in here now. You gotta go.
Are you getting now?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I'll see you in a minute. Babe, here comes DJ, okay? Dominique?
How's it going, girls?
Okay, who do we have on here? We have 10 of us. That was a fantastic meeting. I learned a lot from the failures and the fears a lot. Oh.
Hey, Jess, did you want to keep recording this? Because it's still recording.
Nope, thank you.
Welcome.
God, you're so good. What would I do?